Welcome to the Speak English podcast. Listen, learn, and speak with confidence.
You know that feeling when you're standing in a circle of people? Maybe it's like a networking event or a friend's dinner party.
Oh, yeah.
And the introductions are just, slowly making their way around the group towards you.
Yes, the impending doom.
Exactly. You can almost hear the clock ticking in your ears. And suddenly your brain just completely freezes.
It's like you forget how to act like a normal human being.
Right.
Yeah.
And when it's finally your turn to speak, you open your mouth and you end up sounding like this rigid, robotic textbook. I mean, you just list off your name and your job title.
Yeah.
And suddenly you feel like you're defending a thesis rather than just making a new friend.
It is a profoundly uncomfortable moment. And yet, it happens to almost everyone. It's that subtle, creeping anxiety.
Oh, totally.
Your heart rate ticks up, your palms might get a little sweaty. And instead of actually connecting with the people standing right in front of you, you just retreat inward.
You're just in your own head.
Exactly. You start reciting this perfectly memorized, grammatically flawless script in your head, hoping you just don't stumble.
Right.
But the irony is, by focusing so hard on not making a mistake, you completely miss the actual goal of an introduction.
Which is to actually start a conversation.
Yes.
It's agonizing because we've all been there.
Yeah.
We spend all this time learning the vocabulary, but no one really teaches you the mechanics of the social interaction itself.
No, they don't.
So today, we are going to fix that. We're doing a deep dive into the underlying mechanics of how to master flexible, context-dependent self-introductions in English.
It's going to be so helpful.
The goal for you listening right now is to take that terrifying moment of having to introduce yourself and transform it from this rigid, one-sided monologue into a dynamic conversational bridge.
And that bridge concept is really the core of how native speakers actually communicate.
Yeah.
If you pay close attention to natural English conversations, you'll start to notice that people almost never use those rigid scripts you find in, like, a language learning app.
Right. They don't sound like a robot.
No, they don't dump their entire life story on you right up front. Instead, they operate on this principle of conversational economy.
Conversational economy. I like that.
Yeah, they give you just enough context to be interesting, to give you a hook, and then they immediately toss the conversational ball back to you.
So if the goal is to build that bridge, where does it actually start? Because it's clearly not just blurting out your birth certificate and your current mailing address.
Definitely not.
There has to be a foundational layer to this, right?
Yes. The foundation always comes down to your anchor points. Your identity and your location. You have to tell people who you are and where you are.
Right.
But the way you deliver those two pieces of information dictates the entire vibe of the interaction.
Okay, so let's look at the name first then.
There's a specific phrase that does an incredible amount of heavy lifting in English introductions, and it's simply the phrase "go by."
As in, I go by. It's such a tiny little linguistic tool, but it really is like a cheat code for approachability.
It really is.
Because for a lot of people, especially if you have a native name that is long, highly formal, or maybe just really difficult for English speakers to catch on the first try.
Right. It can be tough.
Yeah, leading with your full legal name can accidentally create a wall.
Exactly. It creates friction. Imagine you introduce yourself by saying, hello, my name is Bartholomew.
That's intense.
Right. It's formal, it's slightly intimidating, and the other person now has to mentally process this 4-syllable name and figure out how to address you.
Yeah, they're panicking internally.
But if you say, hi, I'm Bartholomew, but everyone calls me Bart, so I go by Bart, you fundamentally change the dynamic of the interaction.
You're handing them a shortcut.
Yes.
You're essentially saying, here, you don't have to navigate the formal, complex version of me. Just take the easy route.
It's a strategic move. When you use go by, you are actively lowering the barrier to entry for the other person.
Mm-hmm.
You're giving them immediate, explicit permission to be informal with you. It instantly signals comfort and establishes a friendly, casual vibe right out of the gate.
Because you're doing the work for them.
Exactly. You're taking on the burden of the introduction so they don't have to guess.
I can see how that immediately puts the other person at ease.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've got the name anchored, you've lowered the friction there. The next anchor point is location.
Right.
And here is where I think the biggest trap lies. Because the default question everyone learns is, where are you from?
Oh, yeah.
But navigating that question can be an absolute minefield, especially today.
It really can. There is a vital distinction to understand between the question, where are you from, and the phrase based in.
Okay, break that down for us.
Well, they sound like they're asking for the exact same information, but functionally they serve entirely different purposes in a conversation.
Right.
Where are you from?
Well,
Yeah, typically asks us about your origin, your nationality, or maybe where you grew up. But based in describes your current reality, where you reside, live, or work right now.
let me give you an analogy for how I visualize this difference.
Sure.
Think of answering, "Where are you from?" as like handing someone a historical biography of your entire life.
That's a great way to put it.
Right. If you're someone who has moved around a lot, maybe you're an expat or someone who travels for work, answering that question accurately can feel incredibly heavy.
Yes, it becomes a whole story.
You find yourself launching into this massive saga like, well, I was born in Japan, but then my family moved to London when I was 10, and then I went to university in Canada, but now I'm working in.
It's just too much.
It is exhausting, both for you to say and for the other person to listen to.
And in a quick networking scenario, nobody actually wants the historical biography. They just want a hook.
Right. But saying you are based in a city, that is just a quick, relevant status update.
Exactly.
It saves the listener from having to sit through a long, complicated backstory of all your past moves. It just plops a pin on a map for them.
That is a highly accurate way to conceptualize it. It perfectly reflects our modern mobile workforce.
Yeah, because people move so much now.
Right. Where you grew up is very often not where you live right now, and maybe neither of those are where you'll be next year.
True.
By using a hybrid phrase like, I'm originally from Japan, but I'm currently based in Berlin for work, you are providing clear, layered context.
You're feeding them a buffet conversation starters.
Precisely. You satisfy their curiosity about your background with originally from, but you instantly bring them into your present reality with based in.
Which gives them options.
Exactly. You are giving them two distinct hooks they can grab onto. They can either ask you about growing up in Japan, or they can ask you about the startup scene in Berlin.
Yeah.
You're engineering the conversation to be easy for them to continue.
Okay, so we have the mechanics of the anchor down.
Right.
We know how to introduce our name with low friction, and we know how to use based in to give a clean status update. But having the perfect phrasing isn't enough, is it? Because you can have the most beautifully constructed sentence in the world, but if you drop it into the wrong environment, it's going to fall completely flat.
This is the crucial next step. You have to read the room. Context dictates everything about an introduction.
Everything.
If your perfectly phrased introduction doesn't match the pacing and the social expectations of the room you are standing in, it will fail.
So how do we divide these rooms up?
Broadly speaking, we can divide these environments into two main categories. You have the compressed group format, which is usually professional, and then the casual social format.
Let's unpack the compressed professional format first. This is for, your morning Zoom meetings, your cross-department workshops, corporate networking events.
The structure here is incredibly tight.
Right. It's essentially a three-part formula. Name, followed by role or field, followed by purpose or sentiment.
It is highly surgical. For example, hi everyone, I'm Sarah, I work in digital marketing, and I'm really excited to be on this project.
Boom. Done in under 5 seconds.
And there is a very specific reason it needs to be under 5 seconds. In a professional environment, particularly a fast-paced group meeting, time and attention are at an absolute premium.
Right. People are busy.
Over-explaining yourself in this context feels entirely out of touch. Imagine if Sarah had taken the floor and said, hi everyone, my full name is Sarah Jane, but I go by Sarah. And I'm originally from Ohio, but I'm currently based in Chicago and I work in digital marketing.
Oh, man. You can just feel the energy draining out of the room.
She would have lost them completely. People in a meeting just need to know who you are, why you are there, and that you have a positive, collaborative attitude.
Yeah.
Any more than that, and you are eating into their time.
You definitely don't want to be that one person holding the entire Zoom grid hostage with your geographical history.
No, you don't.
It just shows a lack of situational awareness.
Yeah.
But then we have to flip the script completely for the casual or social format.
Right.
Let's say you're at a weekend dinner party or a backyard barbecue. The pacing here is entirely different. It's slower. People are actually there to connect, not to hit action items on an agenda.
The structure shifts to reflect that. Instead of utility, people are looking for social context. The casual format looks more like a name, followed by a preferred name or origin, followed by your connection to the event.
So an example would be something like, hey, I'm Marco, but I go by Mark. I'm a friend of David's from university.
Notice how different the priorities are here.
Yeah, completely different.
If Marco had used the compressed corporate format at that barbecue, like, if he just walked up to someone holding a drink and said, "Hi, I'm Marco, I work in accounting, and I'm really excited to be at this party."
Oh my gosh, he would sound like an alien.
Right.
Or a robot that just learned human interaction.
Oh, yeah.
A purely transactional, three-word answer in a relaxed social setting feels incredibly distant. It shuts people out.
Because at a party, people aren't looking for your professional utility. They aren't trying to figure out what department you work in. They are looking for personal context and mutual connections to latch onto. They want to figure out how you fit into the social web of the room.
Yeah.
Establishing that you both know David from university immediately creates a shared foundation.
Wait, let me challenge this concept for a second.
Sure.
Because when I hear this, the idea that I need to consciously change my introduction, altering what facts I present based on whether I'm in the boardroom versus the barbecue part of me, feels like that's manipulative.
Okay, I hear that.
Doesn't that make me inauthentic? Shouldn't I just be the exact same me everywhere I go?
That is a very common reaction, and it brings up a really important philosophical point about what authenticity actually means in communication.
Yeah, because it feels weird.
But I would argue that adapting your introduction isn't about being fake, and it certainly isn't about wearing different masks to manipulate people.
Okay.
It is simply about respecting the pacing and the needs of the environment you are in.
How so?
Yeah.
Because it feels like I'm hiding parts of myself.
Think of it like a volume knob on a stereo. The music, your core identity, is exactly the same. You're still the same person with the same voice.
Right.
But you wouldn't shout the lyrics in a quiet library, and you wouldn't whisper them at a loud rock concert.
Okay, I see.
Adjusting your introduction is just adjusting your informational volume. You are selecting which true, authentic parts of yourself are most relevant and respectful to the people you are sharing space with at that exact moment in time.
Oh, wow. That makes a lot of sense. So at the office, the most respectful thing I can do is be brief and let people get back to work.
Yes.
At the party, the most respectful thing I can do is open up and give them a social thread to pull on. It's not changing who you are. It's selecting the most helpful pieces of who you are for that specific audience.
Precisely. It is an act of empathy, not an act of deception.
Which actually leads us perfectly into the final and, frankly, the most critical piece of this whole puzzle.
It really is.
Because you can get all of this right and still completely fail the introduction.
Yes. We call this the golden rule, keeping the flow.
Keeping the flow.
Because here is the harsh reality of social interaction. You can nail your preferred name with a smooth, "I go by." You can state your location with a perfectly contextualized based in. You can read the room flawlessly and pick the exact right details to share. And the entire interaction will still die an instant, painful death if you commit the most common mistake in the book.
Okay, let me guess. Is the mistake oversharing? Rambling on too long?
It's actually the exact opposite. The fatal mistake is stopping.
Stopping.
It is coming to a dead, silent halt the absolute second you finish speaking about yourself.
Oh, the dead stop. It is so common, especially when you are speaking a second language.
Yeah.
You are so intensely focused on getting your grammar right and making sure your pronunciation is clear that the moment you finish your sentence, a wave of relief washes over you.
You're just glad it's over.
Yeah. You mentally clock out because you survived the spotlight, but you haven't survived the interaction, you've just stalled it. If you don't pass the conversational turn back to the other person, you accidentally sound abrupt, dismissive, or even self-centered.
Wow.
You force the other person to do all the heavy lifting to keep the conversation alive.
There's a metaphor that always comes to mind for me when I think about this. It's like playing ping pong.
Oh, we love that.
Let's really picture this. The other person serves the ball by saying hello. You step up, you swing your paddle, and you hit this beautiful, perfectly arched shot right over the net.
That's your perfectly phrased introduction.
Exactly. But then, instead of getting into a ready stance for their return volley, you just drop your paddle on the floor, cross your arms, and stare blankly at the other person across the table.
And what happens next?
Pure awkwardness. They're standing there, paddle in hand, wondering why you just quit playing.
Right.
Let's actually simulate this so you can hear how bad it is. I'll introduce myself to you, and I won't pass the turn.
Ready?
I'm ready. Hi, I'm the host of this deep dive, originally from the East Coast but based in Los Angeles. Great to meet you.
And then I just stare back at you in silence.
See? That silence? That terrible, heavy silence where you're waiting for me to ask you a question and I'm just staring at you?
It is physically uncomfortable.
It leaves the other person scrambling, trying to think of a follow-up question just to fill the void.
But that is exactly what it feels like in a conversation when you don't use what linguists call return tags.
Return tags.
A return tag is the mechanical tool that naturally opens the door and balances the exchange. The most basic, reliable ones are simply, "What about you?" Or, "How about yourself?"
It's the act of picking the ping pong paddle back up.
Exactly. It goes back to the core philosophy we started with. An introduction is an invitation to talk, not a presentation.
Right.
Ending with a question is how you formally issue that invitation. It tells the other person, "I have spoken, and now I enthusiastically yield the floor to you."
It's so simple, but so effective.
Native speakers rely on these tags constantly because they are the glue of casual interaction.
Let's look at a concrete dialogue to see this mechanism in action.
Okay.
Imagine a scenario where person A, let's call her Maria, is meeting person B, Leo, at a conference.
Mm-hmm.
Maria walks up and says, "Hi, I'm Maria, based in Madrid. Great meeting you."
Mm-hmm.
Leo responds, "Nice to meet you, Maria. I'm Leo." Now, here is the crucial moment where the ping pong ball is hovering over the net.
Right, the critical moment.
Maria doesn't just nod and let that terrible silence hang there. She immediately steps in and says, "What brings you to the conference, Leo? What about you?"
I want to break down exactly what Maria did there because it's brilliant. She actually layered her return tag.
How so?
First, she asks a specific contextual question, "What brings you to the conference?" This proves she's engaged in the environment.
Yeah.
But immediately after, she deploys the safety net. "What about you?"
Wait, why is the safety net necessary if she already asked a question?
Because it hands the floor over completely and unambiguously. What brings you to the conference is specific, but what about you is universal.
Thanks.
It ensures that if Leo doesn't want to talk about the conference, he has an open invitation to talk about anything else regarding himself.
That's smart.
It ensures that the conversation doesn't just stop at the exchange of names, it actively jumpstarts the next phase of the relationship.
So what does this all mean when we put the entire package together? Let's synthesize everything we've talked about. To master the introduction, you need a complete, fluid three-stage flow.
Stage 1 is the anchor. This is where you establish your name, utilizing go by if you want to lower the friction and be approachable.
Right. And stage 2 is the context. This is where you read the room.
Exactly.
Are you utilizing the compressed professional format, giving your role, or are you at a social event explaining where you are based in or how you know the host?
And finally, stage 3 is the tossback. This is your return tag, your what about you, your ping pong paddle.
To really cement how adaptable this three-stage flow is, let's look at 2 final scenarios featuring the exact same person.
Okay.
We'll call him Jonathan. We're going to put Jonathan in 2 wildly different environments to see how he tweaks these 3 stages to master both rooms.
Let's start with scenario A, the informal weekend party. Jonathan walks in, grabs a drink, and joins a circle of people. When it's his turn, his anchor is relaxed. He says, "Hi, I'm Jonathan, but I go by John."
Casual, approachable, he's lowered the barrier.
Yes.
Next is his context. He says, "I'm originally from Toronto, but currently based in Rome. I actually know the host through work."
Notice what he did there. He gave a geographic history because the slow pacing of a party allows for it.
Right.
And he immediately established a social link to the host to help people place him in the web.
And finally, the toss back. He turns to the person next to him and says, "How about yourself? How do you know Sarah?"
Perfectly executed. He anchored himself, gave them context to latch onto, and seamlessly passed the turn. Now, let's take that exact same Jonathan and drop him into scenario B, a formal, high-stakes group business meeting on a Monday morning.
Okay, totally a different vibe.
He's sitting at a boardroom table. The spotlight hits him.
His anchor completely changes. He says, "Hello, everyone. I'm Jonathan Miller." No nickname, no go by.
Right.
He uses his full professional name because the environment demands formality.
For his context, he strips out all the geography. He simply says, "I lead the product design team here. Looking forward to collaborating with you all today."
It is highly compressed, totally focused on utility, and respects everyone's time.
And his tossback adapts as well. In a large meeting, you don't typically turn to one specific person and say, "What about you?"
No, that would be weird.
Instead, his tossback is a smooth, implied passing of the turn to the next participant around the table. He finishes his sentence with a definitive downward inflection that clearly signals he is done speaking.
It is the exact same guy. He didn't change his personality. He didn't learn 1,000 complex new vocabulary words.
Nope.
By just tweaking those 3 stages, the anchor, the context, and the tossback, he completely mastered both rooms without breaking a single sweat.
It's just mechanics.
It just goes to show that mastering English introductions isn't about memorizing a dictionary. It's about understanding the mechanics of the flow.
It really is an exercise in conversational balance. And as we wrap up this deep dive, it actually leaves me with a thought that I want to pose to you, the listener, as you go out and practice this in the real world.
I love a good final thought. Where are we going with this?
We spent this time talking about the mechanics of holding the conversational turn and how to politely pass it.
Yeah.
But I want you to consider the hidden power dynamics embedded in an introduction.
Power dynamics. That's interesting.
Think about it. When you walk up to someone new, every micro decision you make dictates the future of that interaction.
True.
By choosing how long you hold on to that conversational turn before passing it, or by choosing exactly when to gracefully hand it away with a simple, "What about you?" You are doing so much more than just exchanging biographical facts.
You're setting the terms of engagement.
Exactly. You have to ask yourself, how much are you silently dictating the hierarchy, the mutual respect, and the entire future trajectory of that new relationship from the very first minute?
Wow.
If you hold the ball too long, you establish yourself as dominant, but perhaps self-centered. If you pass it too quickly without giving any context, you might seem submissive or close off. The perfect introduction is a balancing act of power and empathy.
Wow. It really makes you realize that an introduction isn't just a polite greeting to get out of the way.
It really isn't.
It is the architectural blueprint for the entire relationship. So the next time you're standing in that circle and you hear the clock ticking and the spotlight finally turns to you, well, take a breath.
Just breathe.
Don't just read the textbook. Set your anchor, read the room, pick up your paddle, and pass that ball.